there enough steam in Slow Horses for several seasons?
There we have it. That is this morning's question.
Indeed it is.
This is the To Geek or Not To Geek podcast.
Episode number 84.
Is that right? 84. So we're back with a vengeance. I'm Mark.
And I'm Lewis. Happy 2023.
It is. It's the first one of 2023. My God, that means we've got to set up a new playlist.
I know.
Crumbs.
I know.
What was that? Okay. So, as Lewis mentioned in the opening gambit there, we're going to be talking about Slow Horses as we've just got to the end of the second series of the Apple TV production.
Indeed we have.
What else will we be doing on this week's show?
We will be looking back at the programmes we have been watching over the past 7 days, and from them we will be choosing the highlight of the week, or as we like to call it, the highlight of the geek.
Yes, so that means we're back to normal.
Indeed.
Everything is back after last week's 2022 look back. We're on our normal, our usual format.
Indeed we are.
So, should we kick straight off into Slow Horses then?
Yeah, so Slow Horses, first season dropped early in 2022, second season dropped in late 2022, and dropped weekly, episodes drop weekly. It's starring Gary Oldman and it is and Kristen Scott Thomas. It's about a organisation which is sort of outcasted sort of spies, and figuring out, solving terrorism-related incidents and all sorts of things like that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting concept, isn't it? Because it's literally like the dumping ground, isn't it? Of
Indeed.
people that are either, I don't know, alcoholics, or they've just made some big cock up, which means that they're not considered good enough for MI5, so they're sort of moved away to Slough House. And they're all based on a series of books that are the Slough House books that follow this particular clan. I think the interesting thing is that we've had 2 series dropped relatively close together in the terms of series. It's not often you get 2 within a year. And at the end of the final episode, we had a trailer for the season 3.
No.
So it looks like that isn't so far away either.
It seems as though they film the seasons all in one block.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting.
It is, yeah.
But we know there are.
Excuse me, sorry, I'm still coughing from last week.
Oh dear. We know there are several seasons planned.
Yeah.
We know that there are 8 books.
Yeah.
By Mick Herron, and that means we know there's at least 4 seasons coming of Slow Horses.
Yeah.
That means that means there's the difficulty of the show running out of steam. It's been such good quality so far, has it not?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you actually. First of all, is that we've had 2 seasons now.
Yeah.
We came away from the first season really enjoying it a lot. It was a big surprise for me actually how much I loved that first season. How do you think the 2 have compared? How did you think season 2 fared?
I think season 2 was just as strong as the first one.
Yeah.
In the end, obviously it's quite a grim subject matter.
Yeah.
It is a show that relies on quite a lot of violence, quite a lot of dark humour.
Yeah.
And I think the second series had all the strengths of the first series, and built on the characters, particularly Jackson Lamb, the main protagonist. I suppose you could call him a protagonist.
Yeah.
And the situations were as compelling as the first season. It's a really well composed drama.
Yeah.
With so many excellent characters and situations.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, and it'll be interesting to see whether there's a theme, excuse me, in the series that follow, and obviously it'll be based, I guess, on what happens in the source material, which neither of us have read yet. But there were a number of common themes that I noticed in both series. So one of which being that there's a big major twist in both series in terms of the whodunit sort of type thing, and also both series had at roughly about the same point a major character death.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see whether that sort of same theme follows through in future series as well.
Yeah, it would be. I think.
And in itself, when you take it back to the main question, you know, is there sufficient steam to sort of keep the series going? Would those things become boring if they follow suit in future series?
I think it's difficult to say without having read all of the books, whether there's any sort of capacity for it. However, if there are 8 books and each series is following one of the books, it is true that there's probably enough content there. There's probably enough, and especially if it's been acclaimed, which it has been.
Yeah. What I don't know, are the series very close to the books? Do you know?
I believe they are. They're pretty much straight adaptations.
Okay, which is quite good in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it depends. We've had this discussion before, I think, where we found that you have a series and it could have the creative freedom.
Yeah.
Say, didn't Rings of Power sort of stray away from the source material and people didn't like it?
To a degree, it didn't really have much source material, to be completely honest, because it didn't have permission for very much.
Yeah. It
didn't have permission, that's straying too far, it didn't have permission to cover anything that had already been covered within the Peter Jackson stuff, but it didn't have any permission to go outside of Lord of the Rings and its appendices. So essentially, it only really had a few bullet points in the back of Lord of the Rings to be able to work with. So in that respect, yes, it did stray, but it had no choice.
And when you look at shows like Hannibal, which did stray away, I know at the time we discussed that you weren't particularly fond of the idea of straying away.
I think it depends. I think when you get a really well written source material, and even with the going back to Lord of the Rings, even when you take it back to the Peter Jackson novels, which are really highly rated, it still bothers me that somebody thinks that they can write a better story than Tolkien.
Yeah.
So if it's a really strong source material, and that source material would transfer into film or TV, then why move away from it? Indeed. I think. You then get this sort of the opposite end of it. You get something like the Dirt Gently ones, where literally they've just taken the basic characters, haven't they, and built new stories around that, and that worked really fine.
Definitely.
So if the characters are good, you can do it. But I think I don't know. I think it depends on the quality of the source material to me.
Definitely so. What about the quality of the characters? I mean, a show relies a lot on the strength of its lead characters. I think it's fair to say that Slow Horses has some wonderful protagonists.
Oh, it most certainly does. I mean, and you don't get many better than Jackson Lamb, do you?
Indeed.
He's just a really clever character. You know, he really is a clever bloke. Even though he doesn't use deodorant, he smells, he looks scruffy, he drinks too much, he farts openly in his office. You know, he's a really unpleasant, the sort of person that you probably wouldn't want to stand too close to. But he has a sort of charm that goes with that, doesn't he? In that he, as I say, he obviously is a good agent. He's always one step ahead of the actual MI5, actually, in most cases. He has this sort of relationship with his team where he's quite unpleasant to them in many respects, or certainly has a go at them all the time. But he does actually really care for them.
He does.
He just doesn't show that. You know, that's not in his way, and I think they know that really as well. But you see sometimes where he's not sentimental, but he is, you know. And when one of his agents is killed, he basically then starts really trying to solve the mystery because it becomes personal, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's a complete and utter slob, but in the best possible way. He's a very amusing character.
He is, and brilliantly played by Gary Oldman. I mean, it's a great casting. Oldman is great in pretty much everything that I've seen him in, and he's certainly brilliant in this. What about the other supporting characters? What do you make of them?
I think all of them are actually pretty strong. Some of them more likeable than others.
Yeah.
We've got Standish.
Yeah.
Who's sort of a little bit bumbling, but really likeable in a really unlikely way.
Yeah.
You've got all of the team, the main character. Well,
I'm trying to think what this guy's name is now. The one that in the first episode, you know, that's in Slough House are bungling up the operation at the beginning. I can't remember his name.
I've forgotten it too.
Yeah, it's completely gone out of my head. But anyway, the blonde guy. We should refer to him as the blonde guy. He's a really great character, I think, and he's very serious, isn't he? But at the same point, he is a good agent. You know, he's been unfortunate. He's made a big cock up in something, and but he is a really good agent. He's just the sort of action hero sort of guy, isn't he? Really, yeah. And then you've got the techie guy. He's a twat, isn't he? To be completely honest. But he's brilliant. He's a really good character. He's just like this sarky, annoying, techie kid, isn't he?
Yeah. He's not the most likeable of characters. However, he's well played, I think.
He is well played, and he fits really well into the team.
So there's a lot of linkage between the first two seasons.
Yeah. We
put down as a point here. Well, just elaborate a little bit. How do you think? Do you think it's better when a show carries on threads throughout, or when it has very much different stories each season?
I like it when it doesn't have to be much, but I think I do like it when there is some form of thread. I mean, it's like another show we've been watching this week, Fargo. The first 3 series have got quite a lot of little Easter eggs in them. Or little things that link one series to the next series. Now, we've not seen that so far in series 4. Maybe that will change, or maybe it is completely independent. We don't know yet. But that's an example to me of how that works well. In fact, actually, there was a link from series 1 back to the original film, wasn't there?
Yeah. So
that works well. I mean, in this instance, without giving anything away, because we wouldn't want to do that. But there is a sort of a circumstance surrounding a particular death that has linkages to both storylines.
Certainly, it's very clever.
Yeah, it's really clever. I mean, there are times where I'm watching it thinking I'm not 100% sure what's going on.
I agree.
Where I'm not quite following it, but it's the quality of it is just so good, and eventually you do follow it, but sometimes it's too clever for me. But actually, that isn't a negative thing.
No, indeed, and it's very very exciting.
No, it is definitely,
which makes it very compelling viewing.
Yeah.
So we know that it's got multiple seasons.
Yeah.
I'm not going to answer the question just yet, but Apple TV Plus.
Yeah.
Probably this is one of their flagship shows alongside programs like The Morning Show, Blackbird.
Yeah.
Do you think there's enough longevity in this particular platform? Is it something that you would continue to subscribe to?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I mean, I've got too many of these platforms at the moment, and I do need to thin some of them out because I spend a lot of money on them, and I probably don't watch all of them that often unless we're sat watching things. But I'm loath to lose Apple TV because actually there's been a handful of things on there which have just been absolutely really good quality programming.
Definitely.
Certainly Blackbird.
Definitely.
Certainly Slow Horses. I know you weren't so keen, but I really enjoyed Mosquito Coast, and I'm looking forward to watching series 2 of that. And I don't know, I can't remember if there's any others or not, but
I've watched Severance, which is great.
Yeah. So the quality of the programming is really good. I think the question is, and perhaps the cost of living crisis, to a certain extent, may influence this.
Yeah.
Are the number of streaming channels that we currently have sustainable, or are we over time going to see that we move into a similar situation as we've had with other media in the past? You know, you go back to the old the video player and the VHS and Betamax. You know, there was 2 big players out there, and not all of them could survive.
No.
So in a really saturated market, can all of them continue? Because they're relying on people like me that at the moment probably subscribe to too many of them.
Yeah.
And as soon as we start slimming that down because we're trying to save a bit of money, you know, all of them are going to suffer. Now, some of them move into a different way, don't they? I think Netflix have been quite clever about it. I think with them going for a lower cost version with adverts, you know, it means that people can cut down on their costs without losing the quality.
We know as well that Netflix is planning on cancelling the password sharing policy.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, I think.
Yeah.
In a way, but they're definitely trying to make money, make up for the losses that they've made.
It's a gamble, that, though, because I know a number of people do have that situation where, say, one person will pay for Netflix and another one pays for Prime.
Indeed.
So they will lose out on getting effectively a 50% budget. Now, I think it's probably different when people are sharing multiple, you know, they're handing it out to loads and loads of people.
Yeah.
But it's not like people can still watch it that often. You know, you can only stream 2 at a time or something like that, can't you? So I don't know whether I agree with that policy or not really. But going back to the question about the longevity of Apple TV, certainly the quality of the programming is strong enough.
Yeah.
I'm just not convinced that even a company like Apple, which is obviously huge, can it sustain that level of quality with a lower viewing base if the viewing bases do start to reduce down.
I think there's a lot of hope for the future with Apple TV Plus.
Yeah.
They've got so many great shows, so many great actors. Each show sort of has a phenomenal actor at the fore.
Yeah.
Which is something that draws people in.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I just think, sorry, I know we've probably dwelling on this quite a lot, and it's a topic we've talked about on certainly at least once before. You've got your big players in Netflix and Prime and probably Sky, but then there's a lot of others in the background trying to compete with those, trying to edge in. You know, so Paramount TV being another one, for instance. I don't know. It's just difficult to see how all of them can keep surviving.
Yeah, it's difficult to see which platforms would you say would you keep? Which ones would you bin in the future?
And that's always been the problem for me. Really, is that there's always been something I want to watch on all of them. I mean, Disney Plus is the one that at the moment I'm inclined to cancel because we've got to the end of The Walking Dead. But having said that, you and I have watched a couple of really good films on Disney Plus.
We have
of late, and I haven't actually watched anything on Now TV, which I've been subscribing for. So I don't know. I mean, Netflix at the moment always feels like it's still head and shoulders above everyone else in terms of the amount of stuff that's on it. And Prime has got the advantage of